We did film our WDC recap, so that is up, episode 2. We are also going to post our spicy chronicle. And it's not super spicy. I would say maybe level 1 to 2 spicy. Not 3 or 4, so it's not super crazy. But that'll be just some of the random topics that do come up on the championships or surrounding the championships or the aftermath after everybody's had a chance to process kind of what's happened. However, my intention of starting this podcast was to create an area for discussion, debate, and transparency. There were some discussions that happened after our 2024 Southeast Regional that I was told by a few people not to basically go on Facebook and defend myself, and that it would kind of blow over, or, no one would kind of care about it. It wasn't anything super serious. However, again, I'm trying to promote transparency, so I feel like if I don't discuss it, then I'm just a hypocrite. So I'm not trying to create controversy. However, some of the things that were said are lies, like full-on lies, things that I did not say that I got blamed for saying, that I do feel like should be clarified that that was not me. I also did not understand completely where this person was coming from when they kind of attacked me in a way, because we had had talks leading up to the championships that were very productive, and I felt like our back and forth was very professional. Reading it back, there was no indication that there was any kind of problem with me. So I was kind of confused by the whole situation. And so I did originally state that I would not go back and forth. However, I'm not going to go back and forth. I'm just going to state what actually, just plain facts. I'll probably put my opinion or how I felt after hearing this sometimes, just because I'm human. And a lot of it did hurt my feelings, and I don't feel like people see that side. Because when you read stuff on Facebook, Instagram, stories, whatever, there's no tone, there's no inflection. You can't understand how the person is feeling and the true intent of what they're saying. So that when you read it, especially on Facebook, I sound very mean because I say things, I just say them. But if you don't know me, you don't know that even if you do know me, either way, you don't know my personality, my sense of humor, how I truly feel about things. So you're probably like, oh, this lady's a bitch. Nah, I'm good with that. But then, if you really get to know me, and obviously, this is me saying it, so take it for what you will. I'm actually pretty laid back. I don't take anything too seriously. It's life. I need to stop saying it's life. None of us make it out alive. So don't take it that seriously. It's dog sport. It's dog training. It's not that serious. It's serious in a way that we love it and we care about our animals, but the sport itself, it's not the end all be all. So, yes, I love the sport. Yes, I love competing. And yes, I am very passionate about things that occur in the sport, or rules, or championships, or training. Yes, I am passionate about that. However, it's not everything. It's not everything. The people that I've met in the sport are more important than the sport itself at this point. So, yeah, that's just kind of my little tidbit. But anyway, so to discuss 2024 Southeast Regional Championship. Again, I have only been a part of this region since 2019. In 2019, the championship had already passed by the time I moved down here. Actually, that year, I believe it was canceled, if I'm not mistaken. Either 2019 or 2020 was canceled. I can't remember. However, the next championship that they did have was 2021, in which I participated in. I watched 2022. We actually used Briscoe as a helper tryout dog. 2023, our club hosted the championship. I also participated as an FH competitor. We did not do well at all, which was 100% my fault. But our club put on the championship. 2024, in 2023, I was elected as assistant regional director, which was super surprising, but very appreciated. I'm not sure I'll get reelected, but I've really enjoyed that role. It's been very fun for me because I've always wanted to be involved on some level, where I felt like at least my voice was heard and I could try to help make a difference. So 2024, I was again not participating, but I went obviously to, number one, be at the meeting, and two, as Chris was competing, so I went to watch them. And regionals is always so fun for me because nationals is fun, but nationals gets so crazy, especially if you're competing or with somebody who is competing, that you're running around a lot. So you don't always get those moments to see the people that you want to see. And I feel like regionals, because it's, it's smaller, on a smaller scale, there's more chances for you to interact with the people in your region. So it just is it's a fun vibe. I always have loved regionals since the time I've been in New England till now. It's always one of my favorite championships to go to. So leading up to the 2024 championships, originally it was going to be in North Carolina. That club had to pull out. Then it was moved to Miami. That club ended up pulling out as well. They also are no longer a club within our organization. And there was an issue getting the trophies because the trophies had been sponsored by people in our region. The trophies had been purchased. We had seen a picture of the trophies posted on the original or the second event page, and they were not sending the trophies to Fayetteville Schutzen Club, who was the third club to host it, to put in to host it. And so there was a whole thing of trying to get those trophies. Our regional director called, like constantly poking at the people in Miami to send the trophies, send the money, send something so that, like, even if you don't send the trophies, send the money so that we can at least buy the trophies, because again, this was sponsored by people in our region. So you're stealing money from them. And I also reached out to say, hey, listen, like, send the trophies, send them, like, send something again, just so we could try to salvage something. Eventually they sent the trophies. There was a slight thing with how they sent them, and a couple of the plaques had to be replaced, but at least we had the trophies, so that issue was resolved. In the course of the information coming out, there was a lot of information that was misconstrued or not explained properly. And so sometimes you comment on a post in order to get more clarification. And again, if people don't read into it or know you, they just read the statement and think you're being a bitch about it, but really you're just trying to find out information. One of the posts was about other dogs being at the event, and that there were not going to be, the only dogs allowed on the property were dogs competing. Now, in other championships, there's a certain area normally that are competitors only, and that's completely understandable because they're nervous and they should have their own space so that they're not hearing random dogs barking nonstop, the dogs who are listening to bite work and not getting to perform it, getting amped up. That wasn't the issue. We travel together, so we bring, it's kind of vacation for us, so we bring all of our dogs. So at the time, we actually left 2 of our own personal dogs home. So we had our 7, and I had a client dog. And I had no problem leaving the client dog home if that was an issue. However, we were going to bring at least 6 of our personal dogs needed to come with us. And when I did make the comment on that post, there were other people who also commented like the same kind of concern because they also needed to bring their personal dogs. And some of the comments on that post were, why didn't we make plans for other people to watch our dogs while we are away? It seems irresponsible of us not to do that. And number one, that wasn't the discussion about what we should be doing to tend to our dogs. Number two, that's super disrespectful in my opinion and makes me want to throw hands because we have backup plans. We have a kennel tech who can tend to our dogs. We have Chris's family, are horse people, and they know how to take care of dogs. They've taken care of our dogs before. That's not the issue. We have an entire dog club, people who live in this area who would be more than willing to take care of our dogs. We have 1,000 fail-safes. However, I want my dogs with me as much as I can. That's why I got dogs. Because I want to take them with me. And we do believe in traveling with our dogs, especially if they're up and coming and we hope for them to be our competition dogs one day. They need to get used to traveling, coming out of the trailer or van or whatever car and being ready to work. And it's good for them to be around all those dogs, people, and be neutral, just as a regular dog. Even if they weren't competing, they need to be able to go into public, and dog people are a great situation to do that because they understand our dogs and they're not trying to reach down and pet them every 2 seconds. So it's a very safe environment for us to bring our dogs. And I personally have never had that rule ever in any championship I've ever been to, or even club trial I've been to. I've never had that was a rule. Again, normally there might be separate parking. And after that comment, I felt kind of the mood change to where every post became very targeted as they have held a championship before. They know exactly what they're doing. They were the third club to step in to host. Now, I never disputed that they didn't know what they were doing. Never said anything against that. I'm just giving my personal experience of I've never had that rule where you can't bring your own dog to a dog trial. So the posts go on. In the regional bylaws, it states that the location of draw night must be said to everybody. Number one, we weren't staying right in that area because there weren't a lot of places to stay. We were staying actually at a friend's house that is not far from the field and allowed us to let our dogs, have plenty of space. Even when we go to championships now, we don't stay at the host hotel. We generally try not to stay at a hotel where we love the Airbnb circuit, where there's a backyard. When we just went to WDC, the place we stayed at was beautiful, quiet. We could walk the dogs. They could relax at the end of the day. So we don't always stay very close to where the championship is being held. We want to know how long it's going to take us to get to draw night. The regional meeting was right before draw night, which we needed to be at. I needed to be at because I'm on the board, and Chris was representing our club, so anything voted on, he needed to be there and be aware of, as well as we had intentions to put in a bid for 2025 regional championship to host it. So we were trying to just plan, what time we had to leave the field by to be at draw night, and the meeting, and then, just planning our trip. We also needed to practice, Chris needed to practice that same day. Yes, the field was open so again, in the regional bylaws, it states that if you're holding it at your club field, the field needs to be open a certain amount of weekends in order to give everybody a fair shot, because obviously if there's somebody who lives close or club members, they would have an advantage because they're on that field more often. So we didn't have time to make it there beforehand because we are running a business and we have other dogs and other obligations. So we didn't plan to make the trip there before the championship, which is normal. Most people show up a couple days before, they have their practice time, they practice once on the field, and they go about their business. But everything that I was bringing up prior to the championship happening were things that were stated in our regional bylaws. So I wasn't making anything up or being unreasonable about anything. I was just saying what the bylaws state, because that's what we have to go by. Otherwise, why do we have bylaws? There's no point. And when we host it next year, and when we held it in 2023, the bylaws were a big part of how we had to make sure things were set up and kind of situated. So if we're all going to have the same rules, then we all need to have the same rules and abide by them. After the event happened, there was a post about, they did not name the person by name. They just said who it wasn't. Which kind of makes me mad. If you think it's me, or you know it's me, or you want to say it's me, then just say it. Say that this person said it. And I'm not going to hide. But that's kind of what made me mad too. And again, originally I wasn't going to say anything, but now I'm like, well, yeah, you didn't say it's me, but we all know it's me. So their last line of their 2-page post was, "This is the thanks that we get from a SE region officer, and their initials are not RS," meaning they're not the regional directors. His initials are RS. Well, the other people on the board didn't say anything publicly, so it's obviously me. So again, you don't have to be cryptic in your message. Just say who you don't like on the board and go from there. But don't hide from it. Just say it's Jaquasia Thompson, because I'll step up and say, yeah, let me tell you what really happened. That was kind of aggressive, but oh well. So their post starts off with how they stated on the Facebook page that the only dogs on the property were those entered in the event. Again, I've never had that rule at any championship or club trial I've been to, or training day. So when I commented on that, it was just me speaking from my personal experience, which is the only thing I can do. The wording was a mistake, apparently, and people that know them are aware that for years the policy at their events has been that only the dogs that should be on the property are competitors' dogs and club members' dogs. Well, sorry, I've never been to that club. And again, I've only been a part of this region since 2019. I've never been to that club. I didn't know that was their club's rule. They never stated it in any of their previous posts. So anybody who is newer in the region or had just joined the region, they wouldn't know either. So I didn't know you, and I didn't know your property rules. So either state it first off, or state it well in advance that people can make plans, because when they put that post up, it was like 2 or 3 weeks before the event. It wasn't very much time for people to make plans last minute. So that was also the issue, is the timing of the post. If that's your rule, cool, but say it 3 months in advance, not 2 weeks, 3 weeks. And again, I wasn't the only person who expressed concern on that post. There were multiple people who expressed concern on that post. However, I was targeted. Totally fine. When they corrected the wording, they were still bashed by this individual, even after others that did not agree with the original wording let it go since it was revised. This person continued. I don't know where I continued. All I did was reply to any comments that were made to me, so I would need further clarification on where I continued to bash them about this topic, because I didn't post anywhere else or anything else. I just replied to comments that were commented back to me, and that's it. So, try again. They here in their next paragraph stated that they welcomed competitors to their club for weeks prior to the event, and that people came from hours away multiple times. That's great for those people. Not everyone can do that. Again, I wasn't competing. I didn't need the practice time. Chris was competing. He could easily, if we would have been, because originally he had tried to make a plan to go on one of the weekends, but it just didn't work out because we have work and we work with dogs, and that just happens sometimes. And he just couldn't make it up there. But he had originally a plan to go up for one day by himself. I wasn't competing. I didn't need practice time. I didn't need to drive 2 hours to go to that field. So I'm not sure why this is being discussed anyway, because, again, I was just spectating. I was vibing. I was there to cheerlead. That's it. But they said, this person wanted priority timing on the practice field for her spouse because he had not practiced, not our problem. That's not what I said. All I asked was, because Friday's schedule had to be shortened, the practice time for Friday had to be shortened because there was helper tryouts, the regional meeting, and draw night, would competitors who have not been able to make it to the field prior get priority over people who had practiced on that field multiple times? That's what I said. I did not ask for priority practicing. I just asked if he would be given basically like, oh, so-and-so's been here 4 times. He hasn't been here. You can go in front of them. That's all I was asking. All you had to say was yes or no. I don't know why that was such an issue. And I read how I worded it. It was worded very clearly. And again, if you didn't understand what I was saying, you've been messaging me back and forth for months. You could have messaged me and asked what I meant by that. But to clarify, I was not asking for priority practicing. I was asking if anyone, not just my husband, who had not practiced on the field prior, would be moved up in line over people who had. That's all I was asking. Because I don't know how busy it was going to be, how many people needed to get on the field, and what was going on. So, again, she stated, you are 2 hours away and could have come at any time. We had open field the last week, and there was no time limits. I had a problem with it. I have a problem with the way the practice was run, and I already stated that to anybody in the region. I don't think it's fair, but I didn't have a problem with how you ran your practice, because the same thing happened in 2022. And at that point, I also voiced how I thought that was, a fly, how I thought that was kind of ridiculous from what I've experienced in championships. That has never been allowed. You get your practice time, you get one slot, 10 minutes for obedience, 1 10-minute protection, and that's it. And then you hope for the best. I still believe practice is to make us feel better, not the dogs. It's really for us to settle our nerves. I truly believe that. However, I didn't have a problem with how you had it set up. It is what it is. It's in the bylaws that you can do that. So do it your way. I don't understand why, again, I was being called out for, number one, expressing my concern or just asking a question about how things were running because I didn't understand, I guess. But the comment, you are 2 hours away and could have come at any time, again, you don't know my life because you don't know me. 2 hours there, 2 hours back. So that's 4 hours practice time. We're talking 5 to 6 hours that we'd be gone. Again, I was not competing. I didn't need the practice time. He did. He tried to make it there earlier, but he couldn't. So are we being penalized because we couldn't make it there? Because we were only 2 hours away, we should have made time? Again, I think that's kind of a ridiculous argument and a little insulting. But you don't know us or our schedule or our life. And to say you only live 2 hours away, you could have made it at any time, is just, again, disrespectful and uncalled for and unprofessional in a way. But nobody had anything to say about that. So cool. Hey, turn back up. Yeah, this iPad and we're gonna fight. So, then they have their next paragraph about the competitor bibs. They said that I did have somebody to sponsor the competitor bibs. I actually had somebody reach out to me months in advance and say that they wanted to sponsor competitor bibs. And I was like, okay, great. Like, that'd be awesome. That person ended up pulling out of sponsoring the bibs. And so I was like, no problem. I understand. And so then I was like, well, we'll find somebody else to sponsor them. At the time, I didn't even think about it, but I was like, well, we can sponsor the bibs. Why not help out in some way? I had somebody, they pulled out, so it's kind of on me to fill that space. She says later I messaged that a couple people were going to sponsor. However, I failed to advise them that the bibs were going to be a logo of their dog training. She puts dog training in quotes business and a logo on the back from somebody's kennel. That's how sponsorships work. If you look at any bib at any championships, they have the logo on there so you know who sponsored the bibs. Another thing, I did not design the competitor bibs. I sponsored them. We sponsored them. Our business, yes, sponsored them. And another kennel sponsored them. I had nothing to do with the design of the bibs. All I did was pay for it. That's it. Somebody else in our region, Dynasty House, they sponsored with us. They had their kennel name on the back because they sent us money to pay for the bibs that the competitors could take home. I had nothing to do with the bibs having the logo on the front. However, in 2023, when my old company sponsored the bibs, the logo was also on the front. Just as big as the regional logo. Now, Chris and our print company dealt with the competitor bibs. The print company designed them, and from what was explained to me, their logo was very difficult to print. They didn't have a good logo or file for them to be able to print it very well. So they did the best they could with what they had. However, the logo of the championship was still on the front of the bibs. The club name was not, because it wasn't in the logo. But that has nothing to do with me. I didn't design the logo. Again. But they said that it was posted on our page, that we sponsored it. Of course it is, because we spent $300 with Erica spending $200 to get the bibs so that the competitors could take them home. Why wouldn't I put it on my company page that we are trying to help the region? But then people will say, like, oh, nobody wants to step up. Well, yeah, because you get 2 pages of somebody complaining that you spent money to make the competitors happy, but they got messages about us putting that on our page, and I'm still confused as to why. So maybe somebody could explain to me what the harm is in us showing the competitors the bibs that they would be getting. A lot of the stuff I did is stuff that I have seen done from other people hosting or promoting an event. I did promote this event. I didn't just promote the bibs that we sponsored. I also promoted other things. I had numerous shared posts from the event page that had nothing to do with the bibs. I shared to the Southeast Regional Facebook group, sponsor trophies, don't forget to send your entries in. So I wasn't, in my eyes, I wasn't being selfish, but we did pay for the bibs in part, so I didn't feel like it was a bad thing to say. And again, to reiterate, the logos being on it is what is standard. Second page goes on to talk about the regional meeting and draw night, and how I stated that the location needed to be posted, again, because that's what the bylaws said. And I had multiple people messaging me asking where was draw night in the regional meeting so that they could make a plan on what time they needed to be there, because maybe they had practice on Thursday or they had gone to the field enough where they were just coming up Friday for draw night in the meeting. They wanted to be on time, but they didn't know where it was. It also says it in the bylaws. So that's all I asked. Again, I was targeted to say, like, I'm asking the location early for a reason. That's mean-spirited. Why? I'm a part of this region. Why would I want anything in the region to go bad when it looks bad on me because I'm on the board if it does go bad? They stated that the meeting and the draw night location was not in another city, but I don't know that because, again, I'm 2 hours away. I don't know what city it's in because you haven't released the information. I don't know what city it's in regards to where the field is in. I don't know how I'm supposed to know that just magically, but okay. After they had posted, I guess they had a phone call that someone had called and told them that they were going to have dogs in the meeting, and this information could have caused them to lose their venue. They put someone in quotes. I don't know why. I would think that it seems like they thought I did this. I don't care where the venue was. I just wanted to know so I can make a plan on what time I needed to leave wherever I was to be at the meeting in time. I don't want you to lose your venue because I know how hard it is to secure a venue for the meeting and for draw night and for the championship itself. That one paragraph is incredibly, incredibly hurtful. That you think I'm that mean of a person that I would call a venue and tell such a ridiculous lie, and you've never met me. That's slightly psychotic. That's what I really need to say. The fact that you think I would do something that mean is incredibly hurtful. Plain and simple. That really hurt my feelings because you've never met me, and that's the kind of person you think I am. And then after meeting me, which I didn't get a formal introduction to anyone in the club or anyone running the event. I didn't get a formal introduction, and I only had a handful of interactions with anybody running the event. That's what you think of me. You didn't take the time to get to know me, so I don't feel like you can think I'm that mean. And what a ridiculous fucking thing to say. Like, someone called and said they were going to have dogs in the building. And I would do that. I didn't have enough time to make it to practice. You think I had enough time to say? I hate phone calls. I have so much anxiety about phone calls. If you knew me, you know I hate phone calls. So I definitely didn't do that just because of my anxiety alone. But I called so that you would lose your venue. Wow. Wow. This next paragraph is a flat out lie. The club hosting was Fayetteville Schutzen Club. They've hosted a few times from what I understand. I have not been there because, again, I've only been a part of this region since 2019. I've only met Arthur a handful of times, and we spoke back at Nationals about the trophy situation. Most of my contact was with Patty, though. However, I never got a formal introduction to Patty. Also, she was not at draw night, so I don't know how she can state what happened at draw night if she wasn't there. Here she states that I was asked, somebody asked me for assistance during draw night, and I refused and stated it wasn't my job. That did not happen. That was not me that the assistance was asked to. Arthur asked our regional director to help him with the draw. I'm not sure why, because again, they know how to run a championship. They've done this before. Arthur's judged at a number of championships. I know he knows how draw night goes. I did not say it was not my job. I was not asked for assistance at draw night. I actually tried to stand back because I didn't want it to seem like I was trying to run everything, because earlier that day I had an interaction with one of the club members, and the club member was incredibly rude to me, and I was trying to be polite and stay away from certain situations so that it didn't put me in the middle of stuff. And looking back at it now, I should have just done it, because you're going to say whatever you wanted to anyway. But I did not say that it wasn't my job, and Arthur did not ask me for assistance. So, flat out false. That's a flat out lie. So, and again, if you weren't there, you weren't there. You can't comment on it. Bottom line. Point blank, period. This one was also incredibly hurtful, where they stated that the top 5 competitors were pictured, and when the names were stated, the 5th place competitor was left off. Number 1, they were not going to photograph the top 5. They were only going to photograph the top 3. They did not have trophies for the top 5. Only the top 3. I said that there should be a picture with the top 5, then the top 3, and then the regional champion. The only reason there's a top 5 picture is because I mentioned it. The dog who was 5th was bred by them. I did not know that. I have no ill will towards the dog in 5th place, because the dog is Oscar, who's related to my dog, who I make a big deal about, and was our regional champ last year. So, again, if you had been at other championships, you would know that I actually root for that dog every single time. And again, the dog is related to my dog. And anytime a dog is slightly related to my dogs, any of my dogs, I get super excited, and I think it's like, I'm like, oh, that's kinfolk. That's your cousin right there. Because in black families, if y'all, even if y'all not related, you're related, but if you're just a little related, that's your cousin. So I take that theory into dogs. So Oscar and Gigi have, I believe it's Inari, both in their pedigrees. And so that's her cousin. So she was cheering on her cousin. I never left the name of Tony and Oscar off, I don't believe. It was posted in the IPO training. However, when it was posted originally in the IPO training group, so Chris Meverden took 3rd and Chris Thompson took 4th. The Chris's were right next to each other, and they had like the same scores, I think. But the dogs were reversed. So the only comment I made was, by the way, EXO goes with Chris Thompson, and you've got the wrong dog for the wrong Chris. But I don't remember ever leaving Oscar out of anything. Again, he was pictured because I asked for the top 5 to be pictured. I did apologize if that did happen, because in any of my posts, because I have no problem mentioning Tony, his dog. There's no ill will there, and I didn't know that they bred the dog. So where that came from, I'm not truly sure. But another very hurtful fact that was stated. And there was no paragraph about how rude the club member was to me while my husband was going off for practice. And my husband's calling me. I'm on the phone. I have a e-collar remote in my hand. and their club member is yelling at me about where I parked, but I didn't park, and Chris had already talked about the parking, but there was no mention of that rude encounter at all. So I guess I should just be quiet about that one because it doesn't fit the narrative, right? She goes on to say that I continued to run my mouth, stating that they didn't know what they were doing. You kind of didn't, because draw night you needed assistance. There were other incidents that I was not there for, so I can't 100% comment on. The whole thing where there was an issue with one of the flights had 4 dogs in it, and the way that the draw was, there was confusion about who should be up, who should be down, and so on and so forth. So that also had nothing to do with me, but that was on whoever set up draw or was at the field, not me, when all that happened. There was also another complaint about the jump being slippery from the dew, so that the flight should be delayed. Correct me if I'm wrong, but your dog shouldn't be touching the jump. So I don't know how the jump being slippery would be an issue. And they had a very safe jump. They had the jump that if the dog hits it, it falls down. That was not me complaining about that. That was the whole flight. I wasn't even at that flight. We were at tracking. There were complaints about tracking, and I did stick up for them because I said there's nothing wrong with this field. It's a consistent tracking field. But there was nothing said about me stating that. And she also says that this region is pathetic and dysfunctional. I don't know how this region is pathetic and dysfunctional, because there was nothing that serious that happened for it to be called that. There was still a championship. We still have bylaws. There's a training weekend. There was a lot of business done at the regional meeting in 2024 to ensure that the region keeps progressing. I don't see where dysfunctional and pathetic comes into play when discussing this region. Also, if that's how you feel about a region you're a part of, there might be a problem, don't you think? Either do something to change it, or don't be in the region. I wouldn't call my own region dysfunctional and pathetic and not do anything about it. So I'm not sure like how much of this will actually get posted, or it's kind of a ramble, and it's kind of one of those videos on YouTube you see where people like, it's a little drama filled. However, I do think it's important to talk about, because there's a lot that goes on in dog sport that is so, lot that goes on in the world that's just not fun. But there's so much good that goes on in the dog world. And when you try to bring awareness about the good, you're always hit with some negative. If you don't like how somebody's doing something, call them out by their name. Don't be cryptic about it. Don't dance around who it is. Say it. Or you don't get the right to complain. Also, make sure that everything you're saying is the truth. If you're going to put up a post that is blatantly lying, be prepared for the karma that comes back. Because if somebody does something wrong, then that's one thing. But if you're lying about somebody doing something wrong to make yourself look better, it's going to be shown at some point, and you're going to be embarrassed. After like really thinking about this situation again, it's it's so incredibly disappointing to see that people can still be like this. Like, what? It's really disappointing. And it's also disappointing when people tell you to not say anything about it. Why? What good does that do me? If I don't say it, so they can say lies about me and I'm just supposed to sit here. I did that once before. I let people write my narrative and I didn't say anything and I was the villain. And that was fine. And I'm fine being the villain now, but again, I'm not going to not say anything. I'm not going to go quietly. You're going to hear me say my piece, and if you never want to talk to me again after because you don't agree, cool. I do want to be transparent in that this post was incredibly disrespectful, hurtful, and lied. And the only reason I believe that my name was not mentioned is because this person I could flat out sue Patty for that, because you did lie about multiple things that I did not do or say. I might have to refilm this because I feel like I rambled and I hate that. However, just like kind of like processing everything that has happened when it came to this situation and how incredibly annoying this was. That at the end of, number one, you couldn't introduce yourself to me, and you said one comment to me, but then kept alluding to the fact that Monday all the truth would come out, and then you post bullshit, really, about me. But why me? Why target me? I'd love to know the answer to that. Why target me out of everyone else? When I wasn't the only one on certain posts to say anything. I wasn't the one who needed the practice time. Why target me? It just seems really interesting. And if you step up to host an event, which this also came up in the IPO training thing when I commented about the AWDF events. We have hosted championships. We are hosting championships. We want to host more championships. We're not sitting here doing nothing. I'm not sitting here doing nothing. Just to remind people, I am on the board right now for USCA's Southeast region. We'll see if I get reelected. I am also a committee member for the WRSF, which is the Schnauzer organization. I'm not sitting here twiddling my thumbs doing nothing. I'm trying to make a change. But if there are posts like that all the time, no wonder people stop making changes. At some point, their mental health becomes more important than the dog sport. And I don't think people think about that when they make posts like this. Like, I wonder how this will affect that person mentally. And on the outside, people can appear to be happy and have it together and be strong and tough, but they might not be. And so saying lies about somebody or twisting people's words or what was said and making hurtful claims could really do somebody in, and that's something that should be thought before you just make a post. Because not everyone can just take it and keep going. Some people lose their life over things like that. So think about that the next time you make a post and you're disrespectful and lie. It's again, I don't take dog sports seriously, but I do. And as somebody who is a people pleaser, and maybe I don't seem like it to those who have met me, whatever. When people are disappointed in my actions, it does hurt me, and that post was, I cried myself to sleep multiple nights because I felt like other people were going to think that's what I was, and that's not who I am, and that's not fair. So, again, just think about things before you say them, because you could really impact somebody's life over something that didn't happen or not that important. I hate the drama part because it sounds so like Mean Girls High School. But if nothing else, take that tidbit away. Don't just say shit and think it won't have an impact on people mentally because you think they're so tough. Have a little bit of empathy, a little bit of compassion when you're speaking, and pay attention to how you say things, because it seriously could impact people more than you know. I know people who have gotten out of the sport because people have said lies about them and whatever, and that's not fair. That's not fair at all. Or they've taken their what they do in the sport, they do less now because they don't want to deal with that. Really? You need to be popular that bad? Cool. Cool, cool, cool. It's just, take it with a grain of salt, whatever I say, I guess. But so that's my little side bit about stuff I've faced recently in the sport that's been very, very disheartening. And it did for me. I thought about, well, maybe I should step down. Maybe I shouldn't run again. I probably won't get reelected anyway. And then I was like, you know what? Why? Why should I turn my cheek and let you disrespect me? And let you spread lies about me? No, that's not fair. So I didn't step down. I am gonna run again, even if I'm not reelected. And you can just see like me or not.